Today we have an absolute flood of breaking news. David Schwartz just announced about an hour ago that he's stepping back as Ripple's CTO after 13 plus years. Hedera just injected another $3 million into their Africa Hackathon, which is open to global participants. The chief innovation officer at SWIFT literally just followed me on Twitter. Visa is testing stablecoins for instant cross-border payments. Circle just partnered with Deutsche Börse under MiCA, and the SEC halted trading on QMMM after a crypto-fueled 959% pump. This, like every other day for the past month, is one of the biggest days of digital finance news I've ever seen. What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with you all today. Well, I guess let's start with this because I feel like this is probably some of the biggest news we've seen XRP ecosystem related for personnel in quite some time. This is the kind of the farewell note of David Schwartz as CTO of Ripple at the end of this year, but he's not leaving the XRP ecosystem. So if you read through this, you can go to @JoelKatz and give him a follow on X. I'm sure 99.9% of you do already. Outside of the XRP ecosystem, David is easily one of the nicest guys that you will just meet in the crypto space in general, super down to earth. But in this post, he recapped his career path from the NSA to early Bitcoin to co-coding the XRP Ledger, and obviously as his role supplanted as the Ripple CTO for 13 plus years. He announced that he's stepping back at the end of the year, but not leaving, as I mentioned, transitioning to CTO Emeritus, joining Ripple's board of directors and tinkering with his own XRP Ledger node and some new use cases. Quote, "You haven't seen the last of me now or ever." He also gave a big shout out to Brad Garlinghouse, Monica, Chris, Arthur, Brito, and the XRPL community. So the big takeaway from this is not retirement. This is a return to him being able to build in the way that he wants to. Pretty cool, though. Honestly, David, I've met him a couple of times. And he did not have to give me the opportunity to interview him. He gave me the opportunity to interview him multiple times. And shout out to Raquel as well, who helps with a lot of David's schedule and everything else. And all the coordination that goes into that. So David will be joining the board of directors, though, it looks like, as we've seen here, alongside Chris Larson, Brad Garlinghouse, Rosie Rios, Michael Warren, Ashish Burla, Sandy O'Connor, some very familiar names there. But yeah, like I said, if you do not follow David on X, please give him a follow. He's a great guy. Got to interview him at Consensus 2024, Consensus 2023. Yeah, and just a really freaking smart dude. I mean, talk about a bucket list interview. Just, being able to pick a guy's brain like that is, number one, just been around for so long, and knows so much about so much. And really cool to hear his thoughts on kind of the future of adoption in the space. This interview is on YouTube from back at Consensus last year, and the other one is as well. So huge shout out to David, really great guy. Also, we saw Hedera extending their Hedera Africa Hackathon with $3 million in extra funding. So this is follow-on funding for the Hedera Africa Hackathon. We just did a podcast this morning where this was announced. So right now, the prize pool for the Hedera Africa Hackathon, and I should preface this is open to everybody globally, and I should also preface Genfinity has media relationships with Hedera within the Hedera ecosystem, multiple entities, including the Hashgraph Association, who is behind this hackathon. But it's a massive opportunity for builders out there. $1 million plus $3 million of follow-on funding and an extension. I think 31 days from today is when the expiration date is. And this is a global hackathon. Also, interestingly enough, within this is we had Hedera council member Blockchain for Energy on today. This is the first time I've had the opportunity to interview them. If you're not aware of, well, I'll do a soft plug of the hackathon real quick here. Go to HederaHacks.com or DoraHacks.io and you can check out the prize pool. And then there's another 3 million follow-on funding for this. But during this podcast, we also had the opportunity to interview Blockchain for Energy. These are the members of Blockchain for Energy. And you can see Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, some of the biggest entities in the world. Interestingly enough, within this interview, they disclosed that two of their solutions that were previously baked into private networks, or a private network, which was Hyperledger Besu, have now moved over onto Hedera mainnet. So previously it was just B4E Carbon, which was built, on the Hedera, on Hedera's mainnet. Now this is not only B4E Carbon, but B4E Logistics and also B4E Network and Platform, which as DJ, who is their head of technology at Blockchain for Energy and who I interviewed today, had mentioned he's most excited about this Blockchain for Energy network and platform. So absolutely massive. They've migrated private network products from Blockchain for Energy onto Hedera mainnet. So Hedera isn't just talking, and neither are the enterprises building on the council and abroad. They're literally migrating to the public network, so public mainnet, which is pretty cool. All right, sidebar here, but I'm like looking through, and I know I've been trying to like cover stuff, and I try to be as agnostic as possible when I do cover stuff, and that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do in crypto. But I know I've been, covering XRP stuff forever. I've been covering Chainlink stuff forever, but I've covered a lot more Chainlink stuff recently as well. And that is not under any sort of sponsorship or any of that stuff with Chainlink. I don't even have any contacts. I've interviewed them once, and it was on a joint Hedera Foundation X Chainlink panel. But I'm like looking through Twitter today, and I realized that the chief innovation officer at SWIFT, Tom Zash, I'm probably going to mispronounce his name, Tom Zash, follows me. So I guess the question is, we've seen a lot of stuff SWIFT related recently. I've asked before because I ran into a SWIFT individual at HederaCon, and I tried to getting an interview there. And you guys know I've done interviews with everybody from Deloitte and PricewaterhouseCoopers and IBM and all these big entities, and I'm totally cool with screening questions and stuff like that when it comes to interviews. You guys give me some support here, and I'll try to get the CIO of SWIFT on for an interview in the future. Or should I try to land an interview with him? I would love to. I think it'd be awesome, but I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know. We also saw some major kind of broader news. I'll mention this because this came out today, and it's kind of in tandem with here. We saw, obviously, the announcement yesterday, which I covered. You can watch that video yesterday. SWIFT announcing their blockchain ledger built into the kind of infrastructure of SWIFT. Then Chainlink putting out a really long deep dive about the history of SWIFT and Chainlink. Well, again today, this is coming out of StockTwits. Chainlink and SWIFT announced that they're going to be advancing blockchain integration with UBS for tokenized funds. Chainlink has integrated SWIFT messaging to automate UBS's tokenized fund subscription and redemption workflows. UBS, obviously, one of the bigger entities out there in the wild. All right, let me get to some of the stuff on genfinity.io. You can always find this stuff and these articles on genfinity.io, and give us a follow at genfinity.io. Same with this podcast, like the Hedera Africa Hackathon and Alpha Arcade out of the Algorand ecosystem, and some of this other stuff that we do on a consistent basis. But Visa Direct launching stablecoin testing for instant cross-border transfers is certainly justified as big news. And institutions can pre-fund with stablecoins instead of fiat. Looks like Yellow Card Financial, 20 African countries, BBVA, et cetera. But key takeaway within this article, Visa is merging stablecoins with existing rails across 150 million merchants and 14,500 institutions. We also have Circle and Deutsche Börse announcing a partnership, and they're uniting to transform the European stablecoin market. So, starting with 360T's 3DX exchange and crypto finance, and Clearstream for custody, they are essentially saying that MiCA compliance is the key. Circle was the first global stablecoin issuer to get MiCA approved, or MiCA, whatever, tomato, in 2024. But essentially, Europe is, certainly building out fully regulated stablecoin rails inside their market infrastructure. You can see Circle's announcement right here. They're collaborating with the International Exchange Organization and market infrastructure provider with plans to expand the use of USDC and EURC, or however you want to pronounce that. I'll just say EURC, across European capital markets. And then you can read the full tweet here if you feel like doing so as well. And then the final thing that I kind of have here is a little bit of fluff is SEC's QMMM trading halt, revealing TradFi's crypto scrutiny challenge. This QMM holdings surged 959%. So their stock surged 959%, but in reality, it looks like it surged about 1,700% in total after announcing that they were going to be launching a $100 million crypto treasury. The price spiked from $6.50 to $303 intraday, settling at around $119. The SEC trading, the SEC halted trading. I'd like just found this right before I did this video, so that's why I'm laughing. I didn't like pre-script it or screen this. The SEC halted trading, citing market manipulation, added alongside social media hype. Key takeaway: TradFi oversight tools are being forced onto crypto adjacent plays. Companies can't just throw crypto into a press release without triggering regulatory heat. All right. Anyways, before I let you guys go here, as we kind of talked about the Ripple stuff in XRPL, and again, a huge shout out to David Schwartz, and just a really great guy. Nick Bugalis moved over to the Algorand Foundation as CTO. I have not had a chance to listen to this full interview yet, but I plan on doing so. Definitely one of the, what do they say about like those people? Like, he's a comedian's comedian. You hear like people talk about what Nick accomplished within the XRP Ledger, and it's almost like he's the developer's developer when you hear other people talk about what he's accomplished. So hopefully at some point I can get an interview, but I know this is probably an amazing interview as well. This is Mark from the Algorand Foundation, head of strategy and marketing. So definitely plan on checking this out as well, and I'm sure you guys might want to, so I decided to mention it. And then this, I'm not going to go too deep into the weeds with this, and this is not financial advice. I just stumbled across this on SlideShare today, and like, I thought it was interesting because I'm like, okay, well, who is Solulab? Because you see all these documents all the time, all these crypto documents that literally mean nothing. They're like crypto native companies that are like, I'm inventing reasons why something's going to happen, so you should care. And when you see that stuff, you literally shouldn't care. Anyways, I didn't ever hear of this entity, Solulab, before, so I did look them up today. Looks like they're like a developer outreach group, or like a contracted developer group, but they have like some fairly interesting relationships, 250 staff members. Anyways, you can look through that if you want to. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds with that. And then I'm not paying behind a paywall of pensions and investments. But I will say, I'm sure you guys know how big of an entity Vanguard is, and this just came out on here. But again, I'm not paying $50 to read an article when I can read the headline. Under their new CEO, Vanguard is considering allowing access to crypto ETFs. Well, that's a no-brainer. Anyways, let's zoom out a little bit as we ramp down here with the bigger picture. David Schwartz moving into a role where he can code and inspire builders in a more free way, stepping down as CTO at the end of the year, joining the board of directors from what we've seen today. So yeah, go give David, I said fair winds and following seas, obviously the Navy stuff, but go give him a farewell and a thank you. That guy's contributed just a ridiculous amount to the XRP Ledger and the wider blockchain space in general. Hedera announced, or the Hashgraph Association, I should say, and Exponential Science, who are the entities behind the Hedera Africa Hackathon, but that's open to everybody globally, announced that the 1 million plus 1 million of follow-on funding is now 1 million plus 3 million of follow-on funding, and expanded out the expiration date for submittals into that hackathon for about a month. So talk about a massive opportunity. Visa and Circle are embedding stablecoins into real financial infrastructure. Swift's chief innovation officer is very obviously watching. So maybe someday in the future I'll get some sort of an interview. Maybe we'll do a cross-chain Chainlink and XRPL space or something like that in the future. I do a lot of cross-chain stuff. Maybe that'll work. And the SEC is flexing their enforcement muscle when TradFi and crypto collide. Still, that is wild that stock went up 1,700% when they announced a $100 million treasury. That is, I don't have any of that stock. I'm not advocating to buy that stock or anything. I just saw the story. But the message is clear. Enterprise adoption is very much so here. Regulators are catching up. We know, I've talked about Project Crypto from the SEC and them saying that they're essentially going to rewrite the rule book for innovation in the US, which, hey, that's been needed for a while. But anyways, XRP, HBAR, Link, Quant, all these ecosystems, stable coins, they're all a part of this global story that we are watching unfold. So the bottom line, the pipes of global finance are being rebuilt right now between Visa, SWIFT, Deutsche Börse, all these entities moving in. David Schwartz, Hedera fueling the builder side. It's going to be cool to see what David does on the XRPL after he steps down as CTO as well. The SEC is making sure TradFi doesn't get reckless with crypto hype. Okay. But what do you think? Should I try to lock in an interview with Swift's CIO? Drop your comments down below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share. It does help. It does mean a lot. And yeah, thank you very much. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.